Hello and welcome to another What I Would Do. Obviously, Brother Eye hasn't infected me yet, so more annoying content is heading your way. Ever since the Justice Society first set together, ever since Namor and the Human Torch had a massive slugfest, ever since Linkara, Spoonie, and Nostalgia Critic first sat down to talk about some bad movie all those years ago. Crossovers. More importantly, a shared world where all of our favorite heroes has been a thing. Hell, in the 70s, Marvel and DC apparently were always in the same world. My guess is that in an effort to depower Hostess fruit pies, the villains split the two into separate universes. Little did they know that fruit pies are a multiversal constant. Hell, I bet the villains in Ruby and Miraculous Ladybug would be even easier to defeat if Ozpin and Tiki could just tell everyone where the fruit pies are. Shut up! Scooby-Doo and the Winchester brothers teamed up. Obviously, anything can cross over. Want Tommy Oliver riding in on a Rainbow Dash? That strangely works since Tommy has been every canon male Ranger color except blue and yellow. Anyway, Hasbro owns Power Rangers now, so I expect that soon. Want Master Chief wielding a lightsaber? Look for bootleg lightsabers. Want the Doctor to be on the bridge of the Enterprise? Say no more. There is a comic. I think the only fandoms I'm interested in and haven't covered is the Food Network, Knight Rider, Dukes of Hazzard, Disney, Pixar, and Butch Hartman's epic cartoons, and Maximum Ride, and Metroid. Quick! If anyone wants to make a fan art, have Alton Brown and Guy Fieri holding a cake while Samus drives Kit, Woody drives the Dukes of Hazzard car, and they drive off ice ramps made by Elsa, and Max and Danny just flies over splitting a cookie. God, I love my half-baked fly-by-night writing-ness. Then the only thing that would top that would be if Benny from Comic Storian, Scott from NerdSync, Ares from Variant, and Linkara threw me a surprise party to celebrate the launch of my own comic. Maybe they'll get me one of those style head Poppy dolls, and a Robcore ring is being used as a scrunchie because Poppy from Trolls is my homegirl, and Comic Drake is currently too busy proving the existence of Gwenpool. Please stand by while Josh enjoys his dumb, highly unlikely fantasy. He understands he has a better chance of winning the Publishers Clearinghouse, but let the boy dream. Perhaps actually check out those better comic book YouTubers that he just rambled about, as this will probably be a while. Check back in like 5 minutes. You'll probably slow down on the rambling, but again, check out the better YouTubers. And then Vilma would say kissing Sam was a mistake and that her heart truly belongs to me. Anyway, what would I actually do with a shared universe? I see me having to talk about two types of shared universes, from the ground up and well established. We'll start with the hard-boiled egg, well established shared universes, because it too has two parts, a quote-unquote ground up and a no duh it's well established. If I ever got to work for DC or Marvel, even if I came in right at a Rebirth Legacy New 52 fresh start post-crisis ultimate universe, I would still have to deal with the fact that everyone is going to expect at least some sort of crossovers to happen. Doesn't matter if I am writing Spider-Man #1, Peter Parker is a high school student again, even though he hasn't been one in comics for well over a decade now. Hell, I think he's been a college graduate for nearly 30 years now. Good God. People are still going to expect crossover. So I would give them one. Just like the first issue of Spider-Man did way back when. Do it right out of the gate. I would do basically a crossover with any Marvel character on my first issue. I would consult with the writing staff of whoever I decided to have my Marvel character cross over with, sticking with the assumption that I'm getting to work on Spidey and am harkening back to his first solo comic, Not his debut in Amazing Fantasy number 15, in case anyone wanted to call me a fake geek. Because I'm not a nerd. Nerds are smart. Can't even words sometimes, which is why we have that annoying please stand by guy. Anyway, maybe I would try to cross over with Fantastic Four. Or if for whatever continuity reasoning, don't worry, I have what I would do all planned for continuity. Continuity, boom. I couldn't have my first Spider-Man issue be a crossover. I would just make it be about how Spidey wants to team up with someone, but learns he can actually save the day himself. And that's how I would do any from the ground up crossover from the big two. Because we already know a crossover is going to happen. Eventually, might as well get it out of the way. Or at least see the fact that it can and will, and we know it's going to happen one day anyway. Now, let's flip the script. I'm deep in the heart of continuity, working on Batman number Pinkie Pie. Yes, I figure that by the time my hopes and dreams of actually writing comic books comes true, it'll be at a point where numbers are replaced by My Little Pony characters. Could have been worse. I could have been handed issue number Lila Heartstrings. Collectors will be all too handsy for that one. I just made a pun. A pun that requires context. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Anyway, this would be the exact opposite from what I would do if this were the ground-up established shared universe crossover. I would treat this crossover like it was no big deal. Oh snap! Batman is having to work with Bumblebee to find the missing members of the Teen Titans! But both characters are just treating this like it's no biggie. That this is so commonplace that the characters involved are just like, yeah, another day, another donut. Yet everyone else around them is freaking out. Like, I picture Alfred walking into the Batcave all like, Master Bruce, what are you doing with this teen girl? Did you add in a new sidekick and not inform me? Honestly, I take one day holiday and come back to find new people. Is there anything else you've neglected to inform me? Is there a new bat animal I'll have to clean up after as well? Perhaps Miss Selina Wayne? Please stand by. This is what happens when Josh decides to do a fake British accent for too long. Idiot. Yeah, I heard you insult me, your please stand by guy. You want to fight? Honestly, I don't get paid enough for this. Please stand by. Perhaps Miss Selina Wayne has brought in a pride of lions. Honestly. Since Damian Wayne Robin would be the bridge between the Teen Titans and Batman, I picture when the two of them show up, Bumblebee, you cretin! I had this situation under control. You had no reason to bring my father into this situation. Of course, he's still tied up while doing all of this yelling. And of course, at this point, Jonathan Kent, Superboy, and Superman slam in through the ceiling. See, I told you. But Kent, did you really have to bring your father? Then, like, all the Flashes run in, and our young Teen Titans new, more in line with the live-action television show, as in, not the ginger Wally, is panting, saying, sorry it took so long. there was this thing in the Speed Force we had to deal with. Whew. And Damian is just blinking in bewilderment. I thought you were still tied up. You mean you escaped so long ago that you went and got all your Flash friends? You might as well twerp. Why didn't you just untie me? Obviously, I like a bit of comedy. Oh, and an obvious DC crossover should be any time Two-Face is sent to court. Aquaman should be there. You know why? Because they're about to trident. Puns. I am indeed a master. Maybe an ocean master? You see what I did there? As for a complete and utter ground up, as in my own stories, my own characters, my own universe, how would I do such a thing? Simple. Start with name drops. Right now, let's assume I have only these three characters. Darkness, a paranormal detective. Jody, a crazed, sometimes hero, pro wrestler with the ability to become a insert mammal of your choice here, but a were version of it. So she could be a werewolf, were cheetah, were dolphin, were bear. Seriously, beware the were bear. Whatever. And finally, Tabitha, a genius, billionaire, playgirl, philanthropist. Now, let's say that the three of them live in three different cities. Darkness lives in Dallas, Jody lives in New York, but obviously being a pro wrestler means she travels for work. And Tabitha is based out of San Diego, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a part of Silicon Valley. I hope so, because otherwise her being a tech genius living in San Diego doesn't actually work. If I've got any California friends, please tell me that I'm right. I love being right. It's as good for my soul as my puns are. So, what I would do is in their solo books, start name dropping the others. In Darkness's book, we learn he has a phone made by Tabitha's company. Jody is told a story of this detective that talks to the dead, and Tabitha mentions how she likes the stunts her favorite pro wrestler can do and say something like, it's almost like she's part woman, part animal or something. And then do a bit of reinforcing of the shared universe concept the closer we come to the crossover event itself. Maybe while she's doing a wrestling show in some other Texas town, Houston, for example, Jody offhandedly jokes by saying, I thought that ghost detective might show up. Someone is like, no, this isn't his city. Then, while on a case, Darkness investigates one of Tabitha's company's research labs. One of the workers there are like, man, are we glad you got here before Tabitha did. Hopefully you can solve the case before she catches wind of this. Finally, Tabitha is like, oh man, I can't believe Jody is coming here. She's my favorite wrestler ever of all time, and I'm so getting her autograph. And this would at least be built up over time if I was to actually write these characters into comics right now. The build-up would be seeded throughout each comic, possibly even starting on their debut comics, but the actual crossover itself probably wouldn't happen till at least the first year anniversary. The event itself would be a group of actual werewolves trying to steal components for something, and they are needing Tabitha to have her build it for them. So, knowing that she is a big fan of wrestling, wait for the night of Jody's show to try to ambush her. Darkness, following the leads and everything, catches up and talks to Tabitha backstage while getting Jody's autograph. And then that's when Jody smells the werewolves fast approaching and shifts into her werebear form, ready for battle. Beware the werebear. Hashtag beware the werebear. Let's get that trending. But the main rule for crossovers that people should know and follow and understand, the crossover story should be sort of self-contained. Comics are kind of expensive. If I want to read the G.I. Joe Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer crossover, but I can only currently afford either the G.I. Joe comic or the Rudolph comic, I should still be able to experience part of the crossover. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to tell a wider story if I bought both books. I'm saying that if I solely bought the Rudolph book, I should have a story that feels complete. And that if I only bought the G.I. Joe trade paperback a few months later, have a story, I should be able to read the next G.I. Joe story without having to hunt down the Rudolph comic, or feel that the Rudolph crossover was such a distraction to my G.I. Joe overarching storyline contained in the trade paperback format. Because sometimes not everyone is going to care about the characters involved in the crossovers. If I want to read my Wishbone comic and suddenly Wishbone is crossing over with the Inhumans, I don't want to buy an Inhumans comic just to get my Wishbone story. Crossover is supposed to do two things. One, tell a good and interesting story of different characters bouncing off each other. Sometimes literally, I'm looking at you, Jody. And two, to possibly introduce us to characters we have heard of but never really had time to look into. Because if I never heard of The Big Bang Theory, but noticed my upcoming Muppet story is featuring a crossover with them, maybe I'll be introduced to new characters that I will become interested in. But if I read it and end up not liking Sheldon, Amy, and Howard, then I should at least still be able to walk away with a good story featuring them interacting with current Miss Piggy and Fozzie. Hey, hey, waka waka! For Hero Headcan, this is Josh Redburn. And can I please have the font jump in to the DeLorean to save Mr. Rogers from Bill Nye the Science Guy's clone army of cats and dogs after Mr. Ed kicked the Wolfman into his lab, accidentally freeing Pinky and the Brain, all because Dr. Cox, in an effort to prove to Adam Savage that failure is not an option, steals some sugar cubes to make a cocktail for Ron White, opening a portal to Gem World and causing Garnet to lose their epic shades in a poker match to Gizmo, meaning Garfield now owes Snoopy a lasagna, meaning that Cora has to firebend to cook the raptor eggs in the Rocketeer's helmet that the Spirit stole from Jurassic Park before the Phantom, Shadow, Zorro, and Lone Ranger join forces with Dark Mousy to stop her. There, now, almost all of my fandoms are covered, at least in a cameo level capacity. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Tell me some of your fandoms. Would you possibly want to know more about my characters? Maybe they can become your next fandom. And do commercial characters like Front Row Joe from Cinemark and Tony the Tiger of Frosted Flakes count as fandoms? If so, I've at least mentioned them here. Good night, everybody. Oh, and unlike my epic, half-baked ultimate crossover of all my fandoms, please try to make sure that the worlds you are crossing over actually work structure-wise. Just because Ruby and Miraculous Ladybug are both CGI anime-influenced shows doesn't mean the way their universes work could cross over successfully. The weapons in Ruby are powered by dust crystals, and dust seems to only work in the atmosphere of their world, meaning if Ruby wants to shoot a poor akumatized victim, her sniper rifle might be useless in the streets of Paris. Likewise, I don't think Ladybug's Lucky Charm will reset everything if Salem unleashes a horde of Grimm. Doesn't mean I won't ship Ruby and Adrian, though. OTP for life!